Under the soft glow of the grand ballroom lights, laughter filled the air. It was the annual corporate gala, a night of champagne, elegance, and status. The company's CEO, Veronica Lane, stood near the stage, greeting partners and investors. Everything was perfect, until one of the junior managers decided to make a joke. "Hey," he said, smirking toward the janitor standing quietly by the corner, "why don't we let him play the piano? Maybe he'll entertain us with some cleaning music." A few people chuckled. The janitor, a middle-aged man in a faded uniform, looked up from his mop. His name was Daniel. He was quiet, humble, and always on time. Nobody ever looked at him twice. But tonight, something in Veronica's eyes softened as she saw the unease on his face. "It's okay," she said gently, turning to Daniel. "Would you like to play something?" "Only if you want to." Daniel hesitated, his hands trembling slightly. He hadn't touched a piano in years, not since his wife died, and the world stopped feeling like music. But then he thought of his little daughter, asleep at home, and how she used to beg, "Daddy, play the song Mommy loved." He nodded quietly and walked to the piano. The room fell silent. At first his fingers hovered uncertainly over the keys. Then, like a wave breaking open, a soft melody began to fill the hall. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. Each note carried pain, hope, love, and loss. The laughter died, replaced by stillness. People looked at each other, unsure what to say. Within minutes, Daniel's music transformed the air. It was the sound of a man who had lost everything, yet still believed beauty could heal. The melody swelled, tender and haunting, wrapping around every listener like a whisper of memory. Tears welled in Veronica's eyes. She had heard hundreds of musicians, but never anything so raw, so human. The song seemed to speak directly to her. A woman who had built an empire, but forgotten what a heart sounded like when it broke. When the final note lingered and fell into silence, no one moved. Then someone began to clap. Softly at first, then louder, until the entire ballroom stood, applauding the janitor who had reminded them what emotion felt like. Daniel stood awkwardly, eyes lowered. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I didn't mean to make it so sad." Veronica stepped forward, her voice trembling. "No, Daniel, that wasn't sad. That was real." After the event, she found him quietly packing up his cleaning cart. "Where did you learn to play like that?" she asked. "My wife," he said softly. "She was a pianist. She taught me before she got sick." Veronica nodded slowly, tears returning. "You loved her very much," he smiled faintly. "Still do. Every note I play is for her." That night changed everything. Veronica couldn't stop thinking about him, not out of pity, but out of admiration. She had spent her life surrounded by power, yet this man, with a broom and an old soul, had reminded her of humanity. The next morning, she called him into her office. He stood nervously clutching his cap. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Not for anything I did, but for everything this company didn't see in you." He looked confused. "You don't belong on a night shift cleaning floors," she continued. "You belong where people can hear you, where your story can inspire others." Weeks later, a video from that night went viral. Someone had filmed his performance. Millions of views poured in, comments flooded with tears and admiration. Offers came from music schools, local theaters, even recording studios. But Daniel didn't want fame. He wanted meaning. So he started a small foundation, Keys of Hope, teaching music to children who couldn't afford lessons. One evening, Veronica attended one of his community classes. Dozens of children sat around pianos, laughing, learning. Daniel was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in years. As she watched him play a gentle lullaby for the kids, Veronica felt something stir inside her, something she hadn't felt since her own father passed away. Peace. When the class ended, Daniel looked up and saw her standing by the door. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" she asked. "For believing a janitor could still play," she smiled. "No, Daniel. Thank you for reminding us all that music doesn't come from the hands. It comes from the heart." And as the last echoes of the piano faded into the evening, The world outside kept moving, but inside that small classroom, two souls who had carried too much pain finally found something to believe in again. Would you like me to extend this story to a full 30-minute script version, around 15,000 characters, with more dialogue and emotional detail?